and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and
Subscribe. Hey, what's going on? This is TNS, Time and Space, and I would like to welcome you to episode 15 of Talk and Scroll. Before we begin, I would invite you to like, comment, and subscribe. But anyway, now that the housekeeping is done, right now we are talking about a case that was brought to my attention. This has been going on forever. It is Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. So for those who are not familiar, Johnny Depp of, Pirates of the Caribbean fame, well-known actor, he is actually suing Amber Heard for defamation. So long story short, they were married. They had a short, tumultuous marriage, and they divorced. Everything seemed to be okay until Amber Heard came out with an op-ed article, which I may cover that in another video actually, in 2018, where she pretty much co-signed herself with the Me Too movement and said that she too, i.e. Me Too, that she too had dealt with sexual violence or what have you, or domestic violence or domestic abuse, I should say. She actually didn't say sexual violence, but, well, she mentioned sexual assault previously, but let me just slow it down for a little bit. She basically implied that her, relationship with Johnny Depp consisted of domestic abuse, and therefore that slandered Johnny Depp or defamed him. That is what he's claiming. But I just want to jump into this particular article that I found. So let's go ahead and look at it. Amber Heard accuses Johnny Depp of sexual assault. Now that's significant because in their initial divorce settlement, that was never an issue. There was certainly a mention of domestic violence, both ways actually, which they are currently litigating, but we never heard anything about sexual assault. And honestly, my first impression, what I noticed is that if that's indeed true, then that should be handled in criminal court. First and foremost, that shouldn't be a matter of a civil suit or a countersuit. If there was indeed sexual assault, then that should include the authorities. That's a crime. You know what I mean? That's not a matter of, just some negligence or some monetary compensation. But anyway, reading on, it says, actress's attorney makes explosive claim which has never been made publicly before at the former couple's defamation trial. Depp's lawyers called her a profoundly troubled person. See, the problem with making these allegations, way after the fact is the perception. And then when people say, oh, well, you need to believe all women, it would be a lot more believable if this came up in the initial divorce proceedings. Sexual assault shouldn't be something that comes up conveniently. So I think it's fair to say, even if you're, or especially if you're doing your best to be objective, that's questionable timing to bring this up. So as we scroll through, we see Johnny Depp, we see Amber Heard. They were an unhappy couple, apparently. But anyway, so it says, in a shocking escalation in the ongoing battle between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, the actress's lawyers claimed in court Tuesday that the Pirates of the Caribbean star sexually assaulted the actress during a blackout drunk incident near the end of their troubled marriage. The explosive claims, which had never been made publicly before, were referenced during the opening statements in the former couple's defamation trial. Now, I'm not going to read this verbatim, but I just want to point this out that, again, this is only coming up now, and that's questionable. That's questionable to say the least. I understand that there are actual survivors of, domestic violence, of sexual assault and what have you. I'm not minimizing that in any way, shape, or form. However, it is questionable, at least at best. It's questionable at best and nefarious at worst that these claims would come up now. So as it said that she claimed she was a survivor of domestic abuse. Now the issue really isn't even so much that she wrote the op-ed. She does have the right to free speech. However, it was defamatory in a sense, or they're trying to determine whether or not it was defamatory. But the problem essentially is that Johnny Depp was punished preemptively. He was essentially canceled, as they say, as a result of this op-ed, because people put two and two together. Even though Amber Heard didn't mention Johnny Depp by name, everyone knows that they were married. So people put two and two together. So she said she was a survivor of domestic abuse. And as a result of that op-ed, or in part, at least because of that op-ed, Johnny Depp was canceled. He hasn't been, featured in any major movies. A lot of different companies and entities look to distance themselves from him. And that always happens preemptively. And I think that's the problem, in that these allegations can become weaponized. They can become a weapon. If you are scorned, or if you are, upset, if you feel wronged in any way, it's a way that you can extract revenge, and you can definitely get your pound of flesh as a woman if you make these claims at an opportune time. So I'm not going to go back and forth with what Johnny Depp's lawyer said in response. Obviously, they would disagree with those claims. So this part is interesting. It says the only medical report of an injury during their relationship was a severe one sustained by Mr. Depp after an argument shortly after their marriage while the couple was in Australia. She threw a vodka bottle at him that hit his hand and exploded, severing the end of one of his fingers. Now, that's particularly interesting. That's particularly interesting because no one really had much to say about that. However, if the roles were reversed, that you would have heard about it. That you would have heard about Johnny Depp throwing a bottle at Amber Heard, and he probably would have been arrested. So as a lot of these claims come to light, I wonder why there aren't any criminal charges, or at the very least, you don't hear anything from the court of public opinion. I know that I've had people question me in regards to my coverage of the Deshaun Watson case, and people have pointed out that, the court of public opinion is different from the court of law. However, if that's the case, then the court of public opinion should apply both ways. It should apply to both parties. And one thing I want to point out before I move forward in the video is that in the case of Deshaun Watson, he was able to, or not that he was able to, his background has been heavily scrutinized. People have, really gone through his background and character with a fine-tooth comb, looking to establish a pattern of behavior that would support him being guilty. But I noticed that no one is really looking at Amber Heard's pattern of behavior, because if you watch, a lot of the different content and you read the news reports, and if you watch any of the videos, listen to the depositions, you hear any of the leaked recordings, you definitely see a pattern of behavior where she has anger issues. But it's funny that as a whole, the court of public opinion isn't really interested in, scrutinizing her pattern of behavior. Whereas for Deshaun Watson, where there isn't evidence, such public evidence of his behavior, it's only really speculation. Everyone is looking with a fine-tooth comb, or they're saying, oh, well, just because the evidence isn't there, we can assume that he must have this pattern of behavior based on hearsay. Whereas with Amber Heard, even when it's documented, there's still not that same level of scrutiny for her patterns of behavior. So Depp's attorneys also zeroed in on the timing of Heard's sexual assault claim and say it was weaponized to bolster her defense in this case. So obviously that makes perfect sense. This person said she never made that accusation against Mr. Depp. It was never part of her allegations of abuse in 2016. That's the key. If it didn't come up before, why is it coming up now? Now that there's a lawsuit and a countersuit, and there's, such large sums of money at stake, potential settlements, which, by the way, Johnny Depp actually paid $7 million to Amber Heard as a part of their divorce settlement. So for those, and even in her op-ed, I just want to point this out, that Amber Heard talked about in her op-ed how powerful men are protected. Powerful men are so very protected, and they are seen as an entity that no one wants to allow to be vulnerable. I would say that he's not so protected that he didn't have to pay $7 million in a divorce settlement. So I could see if she didn't get anything, but it's ironic that she talks about, or basically alludes to the patriarchy without mentioning that she received such a huge settlement. I mean, I would say that the system is balancing that out pretty well. If the system was all for men, then there wouldn't be any payouts like that. So moving along, it says, in Mr. Depp's 58 years, not a single woman has ever accused him of violence, and nobody in Hollywood or the world had any reason to believe he was an abuser until Miss Heard publicly accused him. Now, again, that goes to the power of the spoken word and also the power of the narrative, believe all women. Amber Heard wrote an op-ed piece and it was treated as the gospel truth. The public moved to preemptively distance themselves from Johnny Depp. But if it were such a patriarchy and such a male, power structure, why did that happen? If it was indeed the way that Amber Heard, portrays everything in her op-ed, or the way it was portrayed in her op-ed, then he should have been able to be free and clear. He should be making Pirates of the Caribbean Part 10 by now. There should be more Pirates of the Caribbean than there are Fast and Furious movies, if indeed, it's so male dominated and men are untouchable. So just scrolling through, ultimately, they go on to discuss that allegation. But I just think it's important to point that out, that on the one hand, people say that there's such a patriarchy and that it's male dominated and that men are, too powerful. But the system, the way I see it, is that it's designed to, believe all women and that women are wielding power in their allegations. And then, as far as the rest of society doesn't want to be seen in a negative light, or these companies don't want to be on the wrong side of being politically correct. So they will believe all women preemptively because they don't want to be seen as being against women. So that's really what I take from all of this as I scroll through. There was also a libel case that he lost because in Britain, there was a tabloid that referred to him as a wife beater. And he did lose that case, but we are in America. So those proceedings need to play out because the law is different in the United States versus in the UK. But anyway, I just wanted to conclude with that. Essentially, it goes on to describe more of the back and forth in the case. I'm sure that I'll cover that in future videos. But anyway, this has been TNS Time and Space. That has been another episode of Talk and Scroll. Y'all take it easy.
Let me tell you a story I just heard about. What's this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard about? Johnny Depp doing depositions, watching Amber Heard, all I hear is repetition.